to do everything with intention, with, just try to do it a little bit better than you did last time is so key to that self-improvement and that also just that self-joy, because you feel like you are doing more than floating. And that's really key. And it's key for me too, because like I said, we can all suffer from depression. We can all get down. We all have bad days. But when you notice that you're doing everything for a purpose, sometimes bigger than yourself, it's that's enough to have joy.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
All right, well, welcome to the Relentless Project. I'm here with Dustin Hook, Remax Select Agent. So we're kind of like partners in
sir.
that.
15 years strong.
15 years. I never realized you did it for 15 years.
Yeah. I actually didn't. I thought about it the other day. I was just doing the math in my head. I'm like, I've been saying 14 for the last 2 years. I'm actually pushing 16, which is crazy.
Oh, so 16 years.
Yeah, ever since I was 21.
You're a local here in the Pittsburgh area, North Hills.
Yes, sir. Same.
I'm an immigrant to the North Hills, though. Is it true that if you live in the North Hills or grew up in the North Hills, you just don't like move into the South Hills? That's something I've learned.
I mean, I think that's Pittsburgh in general. You're either married to the South or married to the North.
Yeah.
I'm definitely biased to the North, but I'm not shy to go to the South. But I mean, dealing with the tunnels and whatnot is, when I have a relocation client come in, I usually recommend the North pretty heavily. But depends on their preference on schools and stuff.
Yeah, the South is just too congested for me. I lived in Green Tree for a while, and it was cool. You're right by the city, and
convenient. But
those tunnels, to do anything to go through the tunnels, it's a nightmare. Mm-hmm. So I obviously, first thing I want to do is, I actually got away from doing this, and then I realized I was like, man, I need to get back to doing this. These are challenge coins. You know what challenge coins are?
No.
So they were developed, I believe, in Rome, and it was kind of like the system was developed, I believe, in the Rome time, where soldiers would be given coins for association or merits, and it was kind of like I belong to this.
Yeah.
And now law enforcement and military have adapted it for similar sorts. So this is the official Relentless Project coin, and I give it to people who exhibit relentlessness.
My man.
So someone like you, man,
This reminds me of Pogs, like a slammer.
You
remember
can use
those?
It for, I
Wait, how old are you?
I'm only 30. I'm turning 32.
You should know Pogs.
I'd have to look that up. What is that?
You don't remember Pogs? They were a fad around the Pokemon era and all that, but they were the little circle things and just cardboard, basically. Collector items.
See, I was a big Pokemon guy until my mom burned them all up because I was being a little douchebag.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I still have my Charizard.
You have your Charizard?
Oh, yeah.
Did you display it and look at it?
Oh, yeah, I have it in it's a Pittsburgh Pirates little binder.
Dude, that's cool.
All the holographics.
A lot of that stuff it's become novelty collector's items.
Yeah, I won't get rid of them. I love that stuff.
And my buddy who's a jeweler who sponsors the podcast, shout out Carbo Jewelers, yes, he collects everything. And, gold, silver, coins,
I love
Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
If it can make money, he collects it.
I went through this weird phase in my teens where I was all about eBay. And my brother was into designer clothes. I think he put it on my dad's credit card. But, he went off to college and left all these, Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci shirts. And I started selling his shirts. It's amazing selling used shirts on eBay when I was 15, 16. People were paying $40, $50 for these. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to buy a used
Well, it's funny because now that's huge. Thrifting.
It is, yeah.
Thrifting's become a thing. I know people who, and back then you would see this and be like, oh, you would need people who needed to do this, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Now it's become a fad where it's I thrifted this. I got this from here.
Yeah.
And it's cool. You see
it's
Gucci
amazing.
shirt.
In Nashville, I mean, every other store I feel is a vintage shop or, thrift and all that. It's such a trend. And I can't get over old band T-shirts and stuff like that. Oh my God, they go for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, well, especially collector's items now too. You collect your favorite band's shirts and wear them to different bands' shows.
Yeah, one of the coolest stories I have from tour, just especially since we're on the subject of collecting and vintage items. We went to this shop in Kansas City, Missouri called Wyco, WYCO. Coolest dudes ever, but they have a full. They're one of the largest vintage shops in America. But they took us to their private collection of the stuff that they won't sell, that they just keep for themselves. I'm talking like Woodstock '69 stuff. They actually have clothes from the Led Zeppelin plane crash that are burnt because there were survivors from that crash, and they dug back to the relatives and whatnot, and they have, because from the luggage that was collected from that bog that they crashed into. That's a little eerie, but it's
now,
just
is
so
that
interesting.
something they like display? You can go in and see it, or is it like
They actually
away?
have a condo attached to their retail space. It looks like Fort Knox in the front because of the security and whatnot. I mean, this stuff. I asked him just out of curiosity, what some of the stuff would go for. I mean, the Woodstock '69 outfits and stuff. Like he goes, those will go at like auction for $30,000-$40,000 plus, just for shirts and outfits from '69. From
Especially if you're an avid like fan of that band,
Yeah.
you'd pay probably more to
Totally.
make sure you have it. Speaking of like all the music stuff, I'm sure people who tune into this will know, but how did you get into being a North Hills kid?
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to be? Well, first of all, how did you get into music, and then how did that lead you into being a bass player for a big prominent country band, Dan and Shay?
So I always loved music early on, but I think my brother asked for a guitar for Christmas when he was like 10. I was 8 at the time, and he got really into electric guitar, and I was like, well, I want to do something different than that just because I don't want to copy him. So I asked for a drum set. Of course, my parents said no to that because, just would ruin their every night. Eventually, they did agree over time, but that's how I fell into bass. A little different than guitar, but then I started taking bass lessons at like age 9, 10, and played in like the school jazz bands and stuff like that. So I was always attached to it. But as you get older, you start to take on new genres and interests and stuff like that. So I fell into really heavily into love and rock music and just that genre in general. And then actually, Dan and I from Dan and Shay played baseball together, played sports. He's a Wexford guy as well. So
Yeah.
that's my tie to him, his family, great people. And man, he's just such a freaking just gem of a human and hard worker and talented beyond all belief. Writing, producing, performing, obviously, just he's got it all. But yeah, he and I linked up, and he got into guitar, so he and I started playing in emo bands together, punk bands, and did that whole thing. And then as we aged, I went off with a different band from San Diego, toured with them for like 5 years. He went to CMU, and then he started. He moved to Nashville a couple years after that and started writing, and that's how he met Shay, and just kind of all went from there.
Your first instrument was the bass.
Yep.
And
Well, actually, technically piano. I took piano lessons when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, and until I got into bass.
And how instrumental is learning piano to understanding music? Because I've heard from different artists that if you can play the piano, you can pick up a lot of other instruments fairly well.
I always recommend anybody that ever asks when their kids are getting into music, I say start them on piano. If you have an understanding, even just a basic understanding of piano, it makes learning other instruments 10 times easier for sure versus the other way around, in my opinion.
And why do you think that? I have like when I would make music, produce music, it was all, you saw the MIDI. I would just press chords and buttons, look up chords, and like I cannot read anything to save my life.
Well, there's something about the keys, the way they're laid out. That's the scale, of course, and there's thousands of scales and different chord progressions and whatnot. But if you understand that on a piano, and then you pick up a guitar or bass or even, other instruments as well, including drums if you're reading music, it just makes it that much easier to understand it. Mostly if you're reading music, but also to just understanding, like I said, scales and chord progressions and things like that.
I always find it interesting how you can read music, play the music, and then listen to your other bandmates, talking through the in-ears and stuff. Like I can't even imagine.
There's definitely some
compartmentalization. I mess that up all the time.
That's a tough
I got
one.
it.
I don't even think I could spell that if I tried, but yeah, that's always really cool when people come to learn of our in-ear monitors and how that all works and stuff, our mixes and whatnot. The amount of crew people that we have behind the scenes each show to make this operation run is just it's so cool. and mind blowing actually. And I've taken such an appreciation for that when I go to live shows, because I love live music more than anything. My guys make fun of me because when we're on the road, if we have a day off, I'm seeking out live shows. And
Yeah, how does that work? Usually it's like, magicians.
they don't want to see other
They don't
magicians.
want to see other
Nah.
magicians,
I just love live music, and I love the progression of these shows anymore with production, lighting, especially being a part of it, understanding it a little bit better. I'm not cynical about it. I'm not judgmental. I take a big appreciation for a lot of these new components that have been introduced to live shows, regardless of what genre.
I'm a big, huge show guy. I like to go to like Nightly, The Strike. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They're like Cali pop bands.
Yeah, I know Nightly.
The band Camino, like they were
Love
just
those
in
boys.
Pittsburgh.
So they opened our arena tour, the entire arena tour that we did in 2021. Great
Really?
guys. Yeah,
Dude,
they're
that's
all
awesome.
Memphis dudes. They all moved to Nashville. Where did I catch up with them last? Denver. I saw them in. Great dudes. I love that style they have. It's so signature, and that is a really cool genre. And it's cool. That's one thing too. Going back to complimenting Dan and Shay. A lot of the tours that we've done, the headliners over the last couple of years, they've brought out different genre artists, because obviously Camino's not country whatsoever, but they fit the tour quite well. And it was really cool to see that some diversity in the crowd as far as fan, interests and whatnot. 'Cause
That's also how I feel like you connect a lot of the genres. Like if you look at people like Post Malone, right?
Oh, it's wild, man.
He started in rap and then dabbled into the pop industry, and now
He
in the
can't
country
do
music.
wrong, man.
Yeah, but you start to tie in a lot of people, and what you notice, like me, people look at me, they probably believe I listen to a certain genre. I listen to it all.
Sure. I'm the same, man. And it's really cool to see over the years, because we've been a group now almost 11 years. And it was right around when we started. That's when that's when Taylor Swift did her, announcement she was going to go into pop music versus country. And there was a big uprising in the industry. People were picking sides, basically. And it's just so amazing to see back then that was a big conflict. Now it's just like, you have rappers collaborating with country artists collaborating with metal artists, and people just embrace it now, and I love that. That's the way it should be.
Bill Murray band.
Oh yeah,
he's encompassed like rock with pop and
country. So he's got a song with Dylan Marlowe, who opened our last amphitheater tour from this summer. I can't remember the name of the song, but Dylan actually played it in his sets, and it's just like drop C tuning, just breakdowns. And then he plays, a pop country song right after that. It's just so funny to me, but I love it.
I love when genres can do. And then he'll throw in the saxophone.
Exactly.
Like it'll be hard rock and then a saxophone solo, and you're like, it's crazy how all that can tie together.
I'm here for it.
What was the moment where you got a guitar, you started playing? We see that a lot with especially in the youth. I went to school with a lot of kids who love playing instruments. And what was the moment you decided, like, it's all good. It's like, journal now. Like I have a lot of them.
Actually, don't know why I have an alarm going off right now. But
Man, you wake up at 2:40? Long day.
It's the life of the party, man.
What's the moment you decide to take that hobby and kind of make it into a way of life?
I knew so early on that no offense to school, it just wasn't for me. And I wasn't even bad in school. I got good grades until I didn't. But I knew early on that I wanted to tour. I wanted to travel. And grateful for my parents. I know it was totally against their judgment and their preference for what I was going to do and pursue in life, but they just knew I was just so hell-bent on traveling. And this band that I joined from San Diego, we were called My American Heart. We had a nice run. We toured for 5 years straight, all over the world. And that ran its course, but, my dad always, T-Bones up in Wexford?
Yeah, very familiar.
Right at the Wexford exit
Yeah.
there. My parents still talk about it. I was 16 years old, and they dropped me at the T-Bones exit, and my band from San Diego was there in the van and trailer and picked me up. And, I was gone for 6 months straight after that, just different city every single night. We were living on $3 a day per diems. We had a sponsorship through Taco Bell, which was great. We were getting $5 a day from Taco Bell, so that kind of kept me afloat for a little bit.
At that time, $5 at Taco Bell was a few tacos. Man.
Well, the trick was they were in like these like coupons, and they would give you cash back for whatever you didn't spend. So we would go and just get like a 99-cent item and then get $4 back, and that was how we made money for the day.
It's so interesting. Like people see musicians and artists and they glorify that life, but they don't realize like the work. Like I was with the Strike. They came in a black van. All their merch, all their everything was
The
packed
Sprinter
into
vans, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like they're driving so many hours and doing all this. How was that experience for you? That first show, that first tour, you're leaving, you're in this van
Yeah.
and trailer, and you're going.
Well, again, the group I was with, I mean, the five of us, I was the youngest, I was 16, the oldest was 18. We were kids. And I mean, two of my guys didn't even have a driver's license, but we taught them how to drive just because, we were like, we're
Tough times.
We got 6 to 8 hour drives a night. You guys aren't getting off scot-free here. So
Trial by fire. That's what we call trial by fire.
that's right. And then when we would get pulled over, thankfully the trailer would block the back of the van, so you couldn't see if one of the guys without the license got pulled over. We would just flip flop and the van,
Allegedly.
Yeah.
No, but that's
You didn't hear that from
dope.
me.
That's dope. And it's those little like this, like being here now, right? Like years later, you look back and you talk about that stuff, and it's like,
Oh yeah,
it's so cool to see where you started, where you've been, and like where you're going.
Absolutely. And I mean, I do think back on that sometimes. It feels like a different life. It really does. But I mean, I say it loud and clear. I mean, leading into real estate, the amount of hustle that we had to do just to stay afloat in that band, I had to learn about accounting. I had to learn about, budgeting because, and I was basically running that for me and my guys just to make sure we could get to the next city and have gas money. So running our merch and ordering merch and stuff like that. So I got to learn all about that hands-on, really early on. And makes me so grateful and appreciative now that I don't have to do that, but I definitely have an appreciation gratefully for it, for sure.
A lot of moving parts. How did touring, and you're a busy guy with tours. I know we were talking at our holiday party, and you said you're kind of like, not taking a step back, but like you've kind of slowed down a little bit in the touring aspect, or is that something
this year, 2025, we're taking a pretty heavy breather. Shay's having his fourth kid. Dan, I think, really wants to delve into further production and writing and focus. I mean, even when we're off, my guys were doing something. They were doing The Voice last year. I mean, back and forth from LA every other day. It's really hard to create and write passionately when you're just constantly on the go. A lot of artists do try to write from the road, and they do, but I've never heard an artist say that they write the best on the road. They all need some time to just breathe, sit in the studio with their writers, their co-writers, and really, focus to create those hit songs. It's just doing it on the road. It's so hard because your brain is in so many different places. It's just hard to focus.
How has those experiences shaped kind of who you are today and how you approach the real estate industry, your personal life?
Sure.
How does all that tie in together?
I mean, everything, we use the word compartmentalize.
Hey, that's it.
I've found myself, I used to do that a lot more, and I find myself now kind of blending things just to give myself a little more peace. I used to be very apprehensive about talking about Dan and Shay around clients because, I didn't want them thinking that they were being disserviced or, not getting, the best of me as far as, service and whatnot. But, doing this now, being with DDS for 11 years, I have an elevator speech for my clients. Just a lot of them already know just via social media or researching if they type my name in. I'm not shy about it anymore, and I'm not ashamed to say I got to take off for 2 days, but also I have a fantastic team here, full-time coverage, and also I pick up the phone 24/7. And the nice thing about being on the road, for me, it's actually a great way to focus on my business as far as just, ideas, growing the business, and actually focusing on things outside of just showing homes and taking listing appointments and whatnot. But also, too, I mean, I'm primarily a listing agent, so I can market and manage all that from anywhere. And it's really cool, too, like on flights to write up an agreement 36,000 feet in the air, send it off via DocuSign to I have a seller that might be in Florida and the spouse might be in Boston, and we can execute an agreement from all over the world. That wasn't feasible when I got into business 15, 16 years ago, but I take advantage of that now for sure. It's great.
And what led you into the real estate industry? I mean, you said you guys were on the Ellen Show, Super Bowl, all these big shows. It's easy to just ride that light, right? Like, what was for you? Like, I also want to do real estate.
Well, so real estate technically came first 15, 16 years ago, and I started developing a team about 5, 6 years into it because I wanted to service more clientele. I wanted to better service clientele. So that's the next step is, get an assistant, get help, get buyer agents. And it was right around that time too, that I really just had this itch and missed being on the road. I think I went to Warped Tour. It was in 2013 and saw a bunch of old friends that I used to tour with there. And I just remember being just kind of so down. seeing them go back to their buses and, you know, play shows. And I was just kind of there in the audience, and just, I felt like I just was always meant to perform and play. And I mean, God bless it, Dan called me months after that and said, hey, we're getting started here if you want to come down and audition. And I was just all for it, and so grateful that he did that. And, you know, our first tour, we were opening for Blake Shelton in 2014. And, you know, I thought, cool, this would be a great experience, and we'll see what happens after. But here we are, 11 years later. It's crazy. And I'm just so proud of my guys, too, from what they created then. As, you know, we were one of 3 opening act to then becoming an arena and amphitheater headlining act. It's just so cool to see the trajectory and what hit songs can do for an artist over time. And, you know, that also includes the growing pains that come with it, too. You know, it's not always a smooth sail by any means, but
it's definitely a hustle, and something you got to have a passion for. You can burn out very quick.
Yep.
What made you decide to continue both? I mean, you said real estate was first, and then you get this opportunity.
Well, you know, because as a bass player for a group, it's great, but I'm also, I don't use the word employee, but that's their passion project. Performing and playing bass is my passion project for sure. But also too, I don't make the calls of when we tour, where we're going to tour, how often we're going to tour. So I'm sort of at the mercy of the decision making there. Whereas in real estate, that's my business, that's my project of sort. And I get asked that all the time, though. It's never been about money. It's just strictly, for me, getting the most out of life and getting the most joy out of life, and also balance. You know, as you know, in this industry, it can consume you. I mean, real estate is, if you're going to do it right, it's 24/7. It really is. And I love that about it, but also too, I perform better at servicing clientele if I have the music side to keep me happy and balanced. I just feel like I'm a better version of myself.
What does that balance mean for you? Because I just read this book, Declare War on Yourself. Mm-hmm. And then another one, Winning, by Tim S. Grover, and all these books. And you know, we're always told balance, right? Like balance.
Yeah.
And then when I read this book, because like me, like balance to me, it's whatever you're pushing for, that has your attention, understanding that everything else, like whatever your priority is. And this book, it really opened up my eyes, because he's like, balance is an illusion. Balance is an illusion. Whatever you want to go for, that's what's going to take your resources. That's what's taking everything. And if you want to be successful, if you want to be the Kobe and the Jordan of your industry, the balance means your family understands that that's what you're pushing for, and they support you, and you're going for that. And then like, but you're always taking from something. So how does balance look like for you? Someone in your shoes who maybe be going through this and they're like, man, I don't know what to do, or I'm taking from something, like they're confused. How do you manage balance in your life?
I think it's almost, not to contradict myself, but it's almost like you have to embrace the imbalance. You have to embrace that, and also realize that for every high, there's a low. And that's the biggest thing. I actually, it kind of reminds me of like this past week, everybody was posting their highlight reels from 2014. And the one thing that I took from it the most, from just reading my close friends that posted and, you know, kind of did their tribute to the year, every single person I noticed mentioned how great the year was, but also how substantial of losses that they took as well. And I feel like that's the first time I've seen that, you know, as far as, I won't call it a trend, but it just seems like people are embracing the fact that, look, there's no such thing as a perfect 365. It's just impossible. And yeah, there's just never a straight upswing. You're going to get hit with loss. And also, as we get older, we're losing friends, family, and stuff like that. And having to feel those emotions is just awful. It's tough, but it's also a part of life. It makes you stronger. I'm just also, you know, again, with balance, just trying to embrace the lows that come with the highs, and not let those totally kick my ass and knock me down.
I think you can't fully enjoy or embrace the highs and the wins if you're not respecting the downs and the losses, right? Like, right. How do you measure progress? How do you measure success if you've never failed? Someone who's never failed, have they experienced success, right? Like, I
don't think it's possible. No.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to kind of grasp what winning and success is if you haven't experienced loss.
Yeah. I'm stealing this from Tom Hanks, but he was on a podcast years ago, and he was mentioning the line that we all use often of "this too shall pass," and we typically tend to use that when things are going poorly. You know, don't worry, this too shall pass. But that's in regards to everything in life. If you really think about it, when something's going great, this too shall pass. It's temporary. Everything is temporary to some degree. And, you know, you have to just embrace that and enjoy it when it's good, but also when things are hurting, when things are, you know, crushing you, this too shall pass.
It all pass. That's true. Winning isn't permanent. Winning isn't end all be all, because whatever goal you set, once you reach it, you win. It's always what's next.
Yeah.
Right. It's like
that's one of the most uncomfortable places to be. You know, that's like the statement, it's lonely at the top. I mean, you know, when you're at the top, sometimes you can only go down, or it feels like that, or people are gunning for you. You know, my biggest piece in real estate over the years is that I no longer compare myself. I used to relentlessly read the charts. You know, I wanted the trophies, I wanted the accolades, and, you know, grateful to say I got a lot of them. And I'm stoked about that. But then I realized, wait, what is this life about for me? And well, at the end of the day, I want to pay my bills, take care of my cat, and be able to get down to Florida and see water as often as possible, just to make myself happy.
you're a cat guy.
Yep, she's my girl, my little valley girl.
Every time we talk, you bring up the cat. But that's awesome.
Well, it's my child. You know, I don't foresee myself having kids as of now. Who knows? But yeah, she's my gem. And
does she come along on tours? How does that work?
she's not. I've never traveled with her. I walk her at North Park sometimes on her leash. She loves that.
You walk your cat.
Yeah.
Dude, that's dope.
I have a couple strays at my Nashville house that I feed, 3 of them, and they come around pretty often, actually. So those are also my kids.
They're like, Dad's home.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go get some food.
Everyone's spoiled.
How does your you talk about helping people, and like, how does that passion translate into the real estate industry? I know it seems easy, right? You're helping people get a house, but what are your core values that you translate to your real estate business that you feel help you excel over there's a lot of agents in this industry?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm so grateful I got into it when I did, just because, I mean, and I mentor and train a lot of new agents, and I love to see agents do well. It makes me really happy to help. And but I'm empathetic to the market right now. This is a hard industry to start in right now. It really is. Like you said, it's oversaturated. It's so competitive. And that's kind of like the COVID effect. I feel like everybody, their brother, mother, sister, cousin got their real estate license in 2020, and, you know, to each their own, that's fine. But, you know, that's just another challenge to the ever-changing industry we're in. As far as what I do that I think, you know, really sets me apart, it's really just kind of the willingness to try different things for sure, and try to innovate versus follow. I'm not going to be a social media influencer agent ever. I'm just not. I don't believe that sells homes, you know, no, I mean, I promote all mine via social media, and we get thousands of views, which is great. But, you know, at the end of the day, to get somebody that's qualified to sign on the dotted line, you got to get them into the home, walk them through, promote the home. And I use every aspect to promote my listings, of course. But then from there, it's just about communication with the clients. And, you know, after almost 900 transactions in the last 15 years, I mean, I have a lot of knowledge, thankfully, but I'm still learning. But I just utilize that. And it's nice when, you know, newer agents call, or agents say, hey, Dustin, I'm going through this experience. And I can say, oh, that happened to me 3 years ago. That happened to me 6 months ago, 10 years ago. And here's how it played out. And here's what I'd recommend. And it's really cool, too, when you train new agents. Everybody has a different outlook of how they foresee, you know, their business. I recently got licensed down in Tennessee, and with the RE/MAX group down there, Gary Ashton, he's fantastic. He's the #1 team leader in the world for RE/MAX within the whole RE/MAX system.
The entire franchise.
110,000 agents. He's the #1. British guy of all people.
Hey,
It's just funny.
Does he have an accent?
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah.
He's the man. My favorite thing about him is that he walks around with a "Make America Britain" red hat on. He's passionate about it. He loves his soccer, and yeah, he embraces the culture for sure. But yeah, it's he's Nashville's king. Every billboard, everything. But he's been such a great support to me. But when we after I got licensed there, I did a training down there, and it was so cool to see. I'm in a room with 20 agents, brand new agents that have no experience whatsoever, and the first thing that they ask them is to say, "Why are you doing this? What inspires you for real estate?" If there's out of the 20 in there, one person said money. One person said money.
If you're in it for the money, you're gonna be in for a long. Because I feel like a lot of people come in because they see, especially for me, I came in and my reason for coming in was I want to get into the buying and selling, and the best way to learn it is dive into the industry.
Of course.
And then I come in, rewards ceremony. You see agents bringing in, closing millions of dollars a year, and you're like, man, there's a lot of money in this industry. And I feel like that leads to people taking shortcuts and doing the social media trends, and then they're not in it for the real reason to be in it. And then they start doing these social media trends, and they spend more hours making content than they do actually in the industry.
Agents, I think, have made, and again, I'm not, the end all be all to knowing what's right and what's wrong in this industry, and what works for me might not work for somebody else and vice versa. But I just come to find that agents have made this industry about us versus the client, and that's the biggest mistake. And because clients feel that, they know that, I'm not going around showings taking selfies of myself while my client's sitting there wondering, what the heck am I doing? But again, no.
If that's what works for you.
No,
that's what works
yeah,
for you.
no offense to if that's somebody else's thing. I don't care. And that's my biggest thing is I just stay in my lane. I don't care what other agents do. I did ask an agent. She had like 1 million views of one of her TikTok things, and it was just her, giving some data, I guess you could say, but made it really cheeky and funny. And I asked her, I said, "Did you get any direct leads or clientele from this?" She goes, "No, I did not." And that, I don't know, that just stuck with me.
Well, it makes you wonder, right? Just because, and I'm going through this, I have a media company now, and I'm trying to help out a lot of the fighters, local fighters in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to focus on how do we convert our video, whatever it may be, into ticket sales for this fighter. Because oftentimes we see, oh, well, I just want recognition. Okay. Recognition for what?
Sure.
Right? Because you want to be recognized for fighting so that you earn money, you get ticket sales.
Right.
If people just know your name and they think you're funny, what are you gaining?
Yeah,
So
you have to take the next step, and that's the thing with social media. That's a good starting point for things, but that's not going to get you to the finish line. It's not going to get you closed, and it's not going to get somebody to sign on the dotted line. It might get you in front of them, which is great. Again, there's no bad press in my opinion, but well, there can be, but
especially the music world.
Oh yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, I find myself going back to basics, and it was really kind of interesting after the whole COVID effect of us being quote unquote order takers, because the market was just a zoo. We didn't have time to work on our business or to follow up with past clientele, just check in on them. And I found myself over the last 2 years getting back to the basics, calling people, texting people, "Hey, just wanted to check in." And I have to kick myself in the butt sometimes. I go, "Oh my God, this client was so good, and we had a great transaction. I haven't reached out to them in over a year." That's on me. And I check myself on that a lot. I always kind of use the quote. I go, you have to, when you wake up in the morning, when you run your own business and run your own show, would you promote yourself or would you fire yourself? And there's times where I go, I gotta get my ass out of bed here.
I may fire myself. I gotta.
That's right.
Yeah.
If I had to duplicate myself and was my own boss right now, which is that's technically what we are. There's times where I go, this would not be acceptable, and I have to check myself on that every now and again.
That requires some self-reflection. I think as a society, we've kind of gone away from that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of that too. When I missed the gym,
oh yeah,
I'm like, if someone was coming to me for advice and they told me they missed the gym because they were tired, what would I tell them? Well, I just did that.
That's right.
What am I going to tell myself to make sure that doesn't happen again?
We're all tired.
Yeah, dude, I mean, if you're not tired, you're not trying. You have to just get after it. What challenge? You talked about ups and downs. What were some of what challenges do you see in your personal life being a full-time agent and a touring musician? And then what rewards do you see, right? Because we don't want to focus on just the bad, but what are some challenges you see in your life? And then what are some of the rewards that kind of outweigh that?
Oh man, I mean, relationships are hard. It's hard. I mean, that's just the fact of it. I mean, I'm so scatterbrained as is and focused on both careers and, personal growth, health, different things like that. Plus, of course, like any human, I have vices as well. So inserting healthy relationships becomes somewhat difficult. It's not an excuse by any means, because I know plenty of people that have a much more busy life and active life that have wives, kids, and all the things, and they balance it perfectly somehow, or how it works for them. But I've just personally always struggled with it. I don't like being in a relationship if I don't feel like I'm putting my full self forward, but I have a hard time putting my full self forward if I'm mentally so focused on a million other things. And that's, as I get older, that can be a little tough at times, because I feel like I have a million acquaintances and very few close friends and confidants.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word, but
I don't even know what that means, but it sounded good.
Confidants.
Confidants. I'll look it up.
Okay.
No, I think it's important to surround yourself with, they say, there was a quote I read a while back, with 3 solid people, you could take over a state.
Oh yeah.
Like, think about that. With 3 solid people, and the metaphor there is like, you don't have to have a big circle. You have to have a good circle.
Oh, it's all. I mean, that's the thing. As we get older, too, yeah, quantity goes down. You hope the quality goes up, and that's something that, having some good conversations with my parents over the years. They say, you have friends in your 20s that you think you're just going to ride this whole life out with them, just always be best of friends and this and that. But people move, people change. People disappear.
Yeah, people end up
take up new interests, and that's part of evolution of life, and accepting that is half the battle, I think, because we don't want to think that the closest people to us right now might not be there in various ways as the years progress. And like I said, I struggle with that like everybody else, but I don't dwell on it, or I try not to dwell on it. But mostly I've been independent my whole life to some degree. I like spending time by myself. But also too, that can get unhealthy if you can't get out of your own head. So that's having that core group of people to kind of settle you down, or, get you straight if you're, falling off the wagon a little bit. It's really important to have those people.
Yeah. Speaking on that, growing up, I had a huge circle of influence. I thought I was top dog, or what the kids call it, top G now, or whatever. And then what you realize is
on God.
Yeah, on God. Yeah. Well, I had Riz.
Oh yeah.
But the older I got and the more honed in I got on what I wanted to do, the more I saw these people kind of like disappearing, and it was like made me realize, oh, like, what were they in here for?
Yeah.
They were taking.
Yep.
And I realized like they weren't really providing me much in my sense of direction.
Sure.
So
that reminds me of a really good story. It was my 35th birthday. I was in at the Hard Rock in Tampa. I was staying there with an ex of mine, and I couldn't fall asleep. And there was a Howard Stern episode on that actually my dad had told me. He goes, "You got to watch this." He was interviewing Bruce Springsteen, and I was like, this is meant to be. I'm turning 35. I'm stressed. I don't feel like I'm at where I want to be in life. All those different things. But Bruce was telling this story of when he would always go back to Jersey as he got more and more famous, more and more successful. There was always those people in town that would go, "Man, Bruce, you've changed." And he was always so pissed about it. He goes, "No, I'm still the same old guy. I'm still the same dude. I'm a Jersey boy." And every time I go back, "Bruce, you've changed." And he goes, the biggest light bulb for me was when I went back and they told me that. They go, "Bruce, you've changed." And he goes, "You know what? You're right. I have changed and you've not." And that to me just sat with me so deeply, because I'm so hell-bent on not being stagnant and not being stuck in life. I'm all about growth, all about change, and embracing that. And again, like we talked about earlier, it's not a straight line. It's not going to be always good and fun, but you got to change. You got to evolve. And that's, that story that story sat close with me, because I feel like Pittsburgh can be that type of city where people just kind of get stuck in their ways. They're not traveled. They're not, open-minded to different things. And they don't like when somebody else is.
Well, that leads into the topic of comfort.
Exactly.
You
got to be uncomfortable.
You got to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. I'm from Erie. I grew up in Erie. When I go to Erie, I like to dabble. I like to go out. If you know me, I like to get crazy. I go to Erie and I'll see the same people on the same bar stools in the same bar sections. And I'm like, what are the chances that I come in on a random day and you're still here?
Sure.
You know, and I talk with them and they're doing the same things, and like, power to you if your life, if you're happy, cool. But like, I reflect on that. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
like there's so much more to life. You talk about traveling. I didn't travel until I was an adult. You know, I started going out to LA and Florida
It
and
humbles
Texas.
you. It humbles you. And that's the thing. If you only know your creature comforts, it's going to be really hard to evolve and grow. But again, if that's what makes you happy, that's fine. My point I was trying to make was really, I get frustrated when people in that realm have judgment or opinions about people that choose differently. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't care what you do, but don't worry about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's just why I get like, like those statements of, oh, you've changed. I would take that as a compliment. If I got that.
I've been busting my ass every day to change, to grow.
Right. And you got to trust your core group. If you're changing in the wrong ways, maybe they'll, give you a little kick in the butt.
Oh, you're all changing in the wrong ways, and then you wake up one day and you're like, that was me too. But you know, and that's why you surround yourself by good people, because you start bouncing off each other. And
absolutely, man.
Changing directions. Speaking of traveling, how is traveling? You're a big travel guy. How does that shape your outlook on life? And because you're talking about change and growth. Like how does that work for you? Like how has that impacted you being able to travel? I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com.
I attribute all of my positive qualities to the travel that I've experienced over the years and decades. There's just something about seeing somewhere unfamiliar and getting lost in cities, and I'm grateful I'm still here, because I used to walk by myself around parts of Germany, Europe, and not know where the heck I was. And this is before, iPhones even existed and stuff like that. But I just, always made it back, thankfully. And I just got so much life experience out of it. That was my school. That was my college, was just touring, traveling, meeting people, experiencing new cultures and things like that. And just basically, it made me really appreciate what I have here, but also made me realize there's so much more out there, and, embrace that and learn from it.
Speaking of like old times, I remember my first time in Vegas as an adult.
Oh yeah.
The promoters. I sort of
did too.
I remember certain things. I don't remember a lot. Not bragging about that, but the promoters give out all their club cards. Get to the club. I'm like, dude, we're taking all of them. We're going back to the hotel, and we're gonna have a night, right? It's like 6:00. We're back. I'm like, we're going to this club. We end up going. It becomes like a movie, right? Then at some point, I wake up, penthouse suite of MGM. Mm-hmm. I wake up, and you can see across the entire floor. I'm like, where am I? And I wake up next to this older lady. She's like 60 or 70. I'm in my early 20s.
My man.
And I'm like, I look at her. I'm like, did we? And she's like, oh, honey, no. I'm like, okay, I gotta ask. My phone's like at 5%. I remember I had like like it was a touch screen, but not a smartphone. Uh-huh. I got like 30. I think it was a Samsung Glide, if I remember correctly.
Love it.
And I had like 30 missed text messages, 30 calls from all my friends. Mm-hmm. I leave. I like. There's no Ubers, so I'm walking down the strip trying to get to our hotel, and I'm texting them, calling them. Finally, someone answers. It's like 1 p.m. Everyone's like asleep still. Dude's like, where were you? I'm like, dude, I woke up at the MGM. Like, they're like, dude, we thought you went to prison or died. I'm like, where are you guys? And like, now I'm trying to like ask people where this hotel is because it's my first time in Vegas. There's no GPS. I can't just,
Right.
you know, like, maybe if I had a computer, I can MapQuest it, but you know, it just makes you wonder like how crazy times were before, you know, because I woke up. And
I've got a lot of Vegas stories that I can't tell.
yeah, well,
sadly.
there's a lot of this part of the story I won't tell.
But you know, you learn from that, and it's funny because I still enjoy Vegas time to time, and we'll do a lot of like the award shows out there, like the ACMs, the billboards will be out there at the MGM, and I mean some of the parties. The funniest story is that I missed the limo because I was gambling like an idiot, but my tour manager arranged a limo. We got invited to one of Diddy's parties.
Well, good party.
So I'm always accusing my guys. I go, what were you guys up to out there? You never really talk much about it. But,
And just like that, we're all canceled. No, but
no, this was like 5-6 years ago. But I mean, I just laugh at some of the encounters. That is a city where people do tend to kind of lose their minds a little bit, and
it doesn't sleep.
yeah.
It's always going. This is when I asked them, I was like, what happened? They were like, you were walking with a group of people and we're calling your name and you give us double middle fingers and disappear. That's the last we saw of you. And I was like, well, that sounds like something I would do. But, and that's where I'll leave that story. But yeah, life experiences. You live, you learn, and you grow, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
What is it from The Hangover? He's like, in The Hangover, he's like, Vegas, because, well, you know, what happens there stays there. He goes, except for herpes. That'll stick with you.
That'll stick with you. Well, then I see The Hangover. I was like, man, why didn't I wake up with a fucking tiger or something? Yeah, but cool stuff. I like Vegas. I personally like Vegas. I think it's, you know, I am a gambler. I like to dabble in gambling. I'm not addicted, but blackjack, man. We were there for CJI in August, me and my buddy, and we had to see. It's a big jiu-jitsu tournament that just started, and then ADCC is like the world-renowned tournament for jiu-jitsu. They're happening on the same weekend, so we're like, we'll get passes for CJI for Friday, Saturday, and then we'll get a Sunday pass for ADCC. Sunday we sit at the blackjack table. It's like early, 11 a.m. Next thing you know, it's like 7, and we're like, dude, we missed ADCC. Mm-hmm. He just looks at me and goes, oh, fuck it. Let's keep playing. So we played for hours.
That happens every time, man. My buddy Anthony and I were out there for the Remax convention about probably 10, 11 years ago. And same thing, just the two of us at a table. And I'll never forget this. He's a local agent here, nice guy, but very healthy, very regimented. And we're sitting there on a bender at the table at it was like 7 a.m. And he comes down in his running gear. He was going to go take a jog on the strip. And
in Vegas?
Yeah. And I just I felt so judged.
Like, I have not been here. I just sat down.
Yeah.
That's that discipline, man. It's like, cool.
You got the disheveled collared shirt. You're just, you know.
Yeah, when I'm on vacation,
Yeah, the Remax conventions out there can be a little tough. The first year I went to a lot of the seminars and, you know, got some really great insight and learned. And the next year I went to some, and then the year after I was realizing I was using it as a vacation in Vegas.
Well, I went to some Remax event that was in Dallas last year, and the first day I went, it was cool. Mm-hmm. I went by myself, so I don't really know anyone. And then I met up with these group of agents, and then the next day we were out. We just didn't make it to the convention.
That's what I love most about Remax, actually. I mean, being a worldwide system that it is, what do we got, 110,000 agents? I mean, they actually did one last year. It was a 40 under 40 thing called Torchbearers that I was a part of, and it was in Nashville. And it was so cool because I just stayed at my house and went to the JW Marriott where the convention and seminar was. It was 2 days. But each night they had, you know, a setup at one of the honky-tonk bars and got to network with all the agents. And, you know, you become friends with these people. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, that's cool for referrals. I'm like, I feel like I'm making lifelong friendships here.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, every time I go somewhere, like Nashville, I went out to Nashville, and I end up meeting with this couple that's staying in the same hotel. And they're like, hey, you guys want to go out tonight? I'm like, oh, fine, let's go out. So we end up going out, and dude still texts me till this day. I haven't seen him for years. Every time the Pirates, he was a huge Pirates fan. Every time the Pirates play, he texts me.
Nice.
His name's Joe the Ho from Boston in my phone.
Joe, you gotta have a Joe the Ho in your phone. Everybody
Yeah,
does.
like that's he's like, he was an older guy, and he like invited me to his daughter's wedding after meeting me. I'm like, you might want to call your daughter first. I don't think that's. He's like, no, you're invited. You need to be there. I'm like, but he still texts me till this day, and it's just like I'm a huge. You talk about traveling and experience over material possessions. We were talking about that.
Yes.
I think that like meeting the right people or cool people and experiences, like money, there's no amount of money can buy that.
No, it can't. I mean, it can pay for flights
it
and
can get you
hotels
there.
for sure. But I mean, the joy that exists in this world is so much to do with the relationships and oftentimes the strangers that you meet and the stories you hear from them. I don't know. I love it more than anything.
Well, that's why I started this podcast. I love talking to people, and oftentimes I'll find myself at events, at bars, at different things, having these conversations, and then I'm having this conversation with someone else. I'm like, oh, I met this dude, Joe in Nashville. We're talking about that. Oh man, I wish you could just listen to the conversation. That's why I started this podcast. I hate podcasts. I hate being on camera, and I understand you have to do some give if you want to be somewhat successful in this, but it was to hear people's stories and their experiences and like,
Totally.
how can I apply that to my life? What can we do? Like, how can we establish a relationship or whatever? And
yeah, I feel like I've learned more about your life in the last hour than I mean, we just kind of briefly chatted at the event at PNC last month.
Yeah, and that's when I was like, man, I'd like to have this dude on because everyone talks about you at the office. They're like, oh, no, he's a cool dude. And I'm like, I got to sit this dude down. I got to pick his brain a little bit, because like it's not often you get to sit with someone who tours worldwide and then has this career that he's passionate about and will sit down with you and have a conversation.
Sure.
It's very rare. So I do appreciate it.
Well, likewise.
How has traveling shaped your perspective on this world?
I hate to be a broken record and use the term gratitude, but man, no matter what, you're always going to be in a better position than a lot of people, and you might be in a worse position compared to others as well. That's why you just got to embrace what you got going on and just focus on doing better, feeling better, being better, and just looking out for people. I think I am a believer that this world is good versus bad. Obviously, I'm not much of a news watcher, but it's almost impossible to avoid in today's world and the way people perceive the world based on the news and whatnot. I have such a different perspective because I choose to base my opinions solely on actual experiences that I've encountered. It's so funny. People have opinions about cities and types of people and whatnot. Well, have you spent time with that type of person? Have you spent time in that type of culture? Most haven't, but they've read about it or they've heard about it. So they establish a very firm take or opinion on it. And I do my best to not do that. Of course, like anybody, I have opinions on things, but I make a point to just A, keep that to myself, and B, make sure that opinion is educated and, like I said, based on experience.
I'm a big proponent of giving the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Getting my own account, right? Because I've been on the opposite end of that where people will look at me and be like, oh, I heard this. And then they
Sure.
meet me and it's hard for them to hate me because at the end of the day, I
You're a
just
good
want to
dude.
have fun. I want to help people. And like, yeah, I've done things in my past. Who hasn't? But like,
Sure.
we're all we're all on life's journey, right? We're all trying to figure it out. Like, we're all here for the first time.
That's right.
Like, this isn't your second attempt at life.
that's a good
We're all
point.
trying to figure it out at the same time. And
Yeah, I am, and that's the thing too. I think about people in my life that are no longer in it, and some of them by choice. That's hard to stomach that sometimes. And you go, man, I love this person, but I hurt them. And I'm capable of acknowledging that, which I'm proud of, because that's hard. I feel like we're kind of approaching, maybe it's a generational thing, where we're like in this unapologetic phase. Everybody goes, take me for who I am, take it or leave it. And I just don't sit well with that, because then naturally, again, you're not willing to embrace change, you're not willing to grow, you're not willing to admit fault.
it almost excuses your behavior.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And that's why, we don't need to delve into religion, but like, I've always, I have my own personal beliefs on it, but I just have never sat well with the idea that you can completely fuck off for 6 days a week and then confess that on a Sunday and believe that that makes everything okay. That's just not how life works. You have to be a good person. And yes, you can make mistakes and be forgiven for them. You have to acknowledge them, and you can't use a day of the week as you're out for making poor decisions or decisions that intentionally hurt others.
And I think religion is always on the limelight because of that, because people approach it wrong. And
yeah,
I try
it's
to...
a personal thing.
Yeah.
And I might have crossed the line by
No.
expressing my opinion on it, but I just think
I'm huge on having
just be a
open
good
conversation.
person.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. And you can't excuse being a good person because you attend a church.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like, oh, but I go to church. It's like, well, you're missing the whole premise of what church means, right? Like,
that's right. Yeah, and that's what I mean. I again, from meeting so many people, I've noticed, over the years, there are certain people that they identify a certain way, whether it be via the church or the belief system they have, and they utilize that as their out for, like I said, intentionally. We're all going to hurt people. It's just it's inevitable, but to do that intentionally or to want, that's the other thing too, is like I'm a huge believer in, I'd rather just improve and do better versus what I notice a lot of people do, especially on the lazy side, is just hope that other people fail. To lift yourself
get to
up.
my level, so I'm not forced to.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's what it's like the misery loves company concept. If you can't do well, you feel a lot better when people around you are doing poorly as well, because it makes you feel like you're doing better. That's just such an awful attitude, and I mean, I do my best to avoid that, because again, there's times where if you're just down, it never feels good to hear somebody else doing poorly, but it's just like you have to stay away from that and just constantly just look up.
And it's almost like a bigger picture of not just a church thing, but in any industry, right? Like, there's good people in industries, and then there's we'll call it lazy people, because
absolutely
this world is mostly good. I like to think, as you said, but we have local musicians who will look down on other musicians who are starting, and you're like, well, weren't you there at one point?
100%. That's what I mean. Yeah, you can never forget where you came from, and that's with the music side of things. I mean, I'm grateful I have the 5 years of very, very low quality living. We'll call it that. But it's so funny because at that age, I was in heaven. I loved it. I think back to that, I go, I don't think that would suit me right now, but I'm so glad it did, because it gives me limitless gratitude for the great things that I have in my life now. And at that time, I found joy in, all the, we'll call it low quality living conditions and just the experiences.
I call it being in the mix.
Yeah, totally.
Being in the mix.
Sleeping on, strangers' wooden floors because we couldn't afford a hotel room. Drawing for straws to see who could get to sleep on the bed. We'd always have to sleep horizontally because we could fit more people on the bed. And the others would sleep either in the van or on the floor.
Like
on the
sardines.
floor. Yep, pretty much. And, those stories to me just, that's, like I said, it feels like that's a different life sometimes, but it wasn't. And it definitely shaped me a certain way, and I just think that's why I'm always going to live with appreciation for everything, including the bad.
And that speaks volumes as to who you are. I like to call it being in the mix, because when we're in it, right, like if you're not appreciating it, it's easy to go, man, this is hard, this sucks, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But if you can fast forward 5, 10, 15, however long it takes you to get to where you want to be, you couldn't have got there unless you were in the mix.
That's right.
And then that makes your story, your success, so much better, because you get to reflect back and be like, wow, like that's where I was. If you decide to pick up a bass and then the next day you're on a world tour and that's your life, are you going to appreciate that as much as if you had to grind and struggle and go through all these trials and tribulations to get there?
That's right.
So I call it being in the mix. And every time I had like Jack on the show, and that's where I came up with like, oh man, that's in the mix. Like, you're in the mix right now. You're doing these local shows. You're doing grad parties. You're doing all this stuff. One day, if and when you make it, you get to look back and be like, man, I was doing that. Now look where I'm at. Like, it's a bigger appreciation.
It's funny because even artists that people consider overnight successes, if you really look into their history, they're not. They,
doing it longer than
so funny
most people.
A lot of artists that win like the Grammy for Best New Artist or Best New Artist for any of the genres or award shows, they're usually at it for 5 to 10 years, even though they're considered new. It's the grind that nobody really sees behind the scenes until there's just that I don't know what the word is, but just like that tipping point where you realize, oh, we're making it. We're headed in the right direction. But at that time, again, you don't know what the future holds and the trajectory of how much that growth might or might not be. And it's just that's why you have to live in the moment, especially in the entertainment world, because it's fleeting for sure.
Have you
more than ever?
Have you ever boiled milk? Like for oatmeal or anything, like boiled milk?
I boiled Nesquik in Berlin, Germany once.
So the reason I say it's not random, the reason I say
remember that, but I do.
because he's like, I don't know why, but when you boil milk, you got it going. Nothing, you don't see anything. It's getting hotter as it's getting boiled, right? And then you start to see some bubbling and fizzing, and then almost immediately, it boils over unless you have the wooden spoon on top as people. But like it's getting hotter, it's working, it's doing what it's supposed to be
Takes
doing.
forever, then it's there.
And then immediately it just boils over. If you're not watching it, boils over.
That's a good example. Yep.
You know, and I feel a lot of people see these overnight successes like, oh man, he hit it big, he got it, and it's like, look at I don't know why I was just watching these videos on Post Malone. That's why I keep coming back to him. But he started.
He was in the scene world. He was
yeah.
in like the Warped Tour emo world
and then,
first.
Boom, hit it. And you're like, wow.
He crossed over into more hip hop, R&B, and I mean, but man, what a cool story he's got, and you know, I mean, nothing but deserved success.
Yeah, like when did you start music? You said 14?
Yeah, I mean, Dan and I's first band, we were like 14. You know?
Like think of that, like 14.
Yeah,
been doing it for a lot. And that's the thing, when people who experience success, they have failed more times than most people have ever even tried.
Right. But that's the thing, though, too, in the entertainment world. Like, we thought we made it when we played the Doors at Warped Tour, you know, in front of 100 kids, because we could say we played the Warped Tour, but we were not the Fall Out Boy or the All American Rejects or the main stage act. But in our minds at that time, that felt like making it, and you couldn't convince me otherwise. And I hate that as I get older, you know, you start to lose that zest a little bit, you know, because it is harder to feel satisfied. It is harder to feel like you are growing and improving and being successful.
That's because your improvement becomes so, like, the more skill and the more you go, it becomes less and less.
Yeah, and that reminds
observable.
me. I mean, in 15 years, you know, I knew it was going to come eventually. You know, I went 11 years in this business without a down year. Every year was a slight improvement, and I said, there's going to be a year here where it corrects, whether it's via the market or I just didn't have as great of a year. You know, there's a lot of fortune to this business sometimes too. You know, you can't control fall throughs. You can't control the price point of who calls you all the time. Obviously, there's ways to be systematic and keep it close, but you know, I was like afraid I was going to go into depression because I had a slight correction of a year. Well, the next year I improved again, and it was great. And then the next year actually went down again after that. And it's like, that's when I realized, I'm not doing this for reasons other than I know I'm good at this. My clients support me. I support them, and the money will come and go. And
that's the thing about money. As fast as it comes, it can go.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I've just learned to, like I said, as long as I can just stay afloat, I'm a pretty happy person for the most part. You know, and just kind of, I think we're all our own worst enemies. That's personally my struggle as well. I know I have some amazing support, but I get in my own way sometimes, like we all do. And I'm just really trying hard. You know, new year, not new me, but new year, new outlook. And I just really want to focus on getting and staying healthy. And, you know, I think that's too, you know, as we get older, it's like, you got to take care of your body. There's a million different ways to do that. And there's 10 million ways to ruin it. So
what are ways? So we're talking about your professional career. Like, what do you do for yourself to take care of your body? Or I know you have you mentioned yoga.
Yeah, hot yoga is
I would
lifesaver for me.
I feel like I would die.
It's a hell of a workout, literally and figuratively, because they turned it up to like 92 or something in there. I mean, you're basically in a sauna. But the best thing about hot yoga is that it's for an impatient person. You mentioned ADHD. I'm right there with you. It's like, I can't sit still. I can't keep my mind on one thing for more than a second. Yoga forces you to embrace that and to sit with things that you don't want to sit with. And that includes, you know, holding whole body weight up, via your hand or your shoulder or something like that. So it's physical as well. So you're getting a workout in, but also to sit and hold a pose for 30 seconds when you want to fall out of it after 3, that is such a good brain workout. And I need stuff like that.
That's mental fortitude. You're working something else. People look at me. I'm a strong guy. I love to lift heavy weights. I dabbled. They were doing this yoga class in the North Hills, and they sent us all an email. I was like, oh, I'll try it.
Sure.
It was one of the hardest things I've done to put
It's
myself.
Funny. I see bodybuilders every once in a while in class, and they can't do shit compared to some of these like petite 110-pound girls that are literally like holding their entire body weight up like with their fingertips. Like it's just in some of the some of the vertical, like the inverted poses and stuff like that. I mean, it's like it looks like it's magic.
Yeah,
and I can't do any of that personally, but it's like it's inspiring to be in a room with people like that, because I've tried doing it on the road, like via laptop or like a YouTube. And again, there's something about the camaraderie of a group workouts that I personally love. Now, on the contrary of that, I'm a big runner. That's more of just I sit in my head, I listen to music. I'm doing a marathon in 3 days. I'm a little nervous about down in Disney.
Oh.
And I'm not really that well trained for this one, but I'll see how I do.
Well, it's interesting when you talk to marathon runners, and you'll have like a big array of people doing it, right? Like someone who's never ran one, and the person this is their 13th marathon.
Yeah, I got kind of addicted to them I did 3 last year, and the first one was Pittsburgh. And I was trained for it because I was nervous. So I did the regimented, like all the, recommended like mileage buildup. And the second one was more of just kind of a spur. And I was like, let's see if I can do it. And finished gratefully. I don't do them for speed or for time. It's a personal.
I think it's a testament to just.
It's a war. I mean, 26.2 miles is an absolute masochistic thing to do. It's not good for your body. But if you set out and go, I'm going to finish this, and you do finish it, you feel like $1 million. And it's a nice reset. So I'm going to give it a go this weekend. I registered for it like 9 months ago, but this is the first one I'm doing that the training primarily would have been like in the cold winter, which, I mean, again, excuses are a lot easier this time of year than they are in the springtime or when it's warm out. So all the other 3 that I did last year, it was easier to train for, whereas, the last month or 2 here, I've just been kind of.
So how have you been getting ready for this one?
I've actually been trying more strength training versus just longevity running, just to try to see if having stronger muscles and stronger legs for the endurance part will make it easier for me. It's an experiment.
So you're experimenting on this one. That's
a little bit.
Dude, that's insane.
I'm glad that it's down in Disney, because I'll at least, I'll be overstimulated by the sights because it runs through the parks and stuff like that. But
offers a distraction.
Yeah, and there's going to be a bunch of weirdos in their mouse costumes and stuff. I mean that with all love and respect. Oh yeah. People do some crazy stuff. Disney's kind of a religion in itself.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I had a coworker who he retired, and him and his wife go to Disney like 4 or 5 times a year.
That's my brother and his wife. They're Disney people.
Like no kids though.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wow.
No, I love. I dated a girl in Orlando a couple years back, and when I would go down and visit, we would always go to the parks, and I just fell in love with it. I love rides. I like that stuff. I never got into the Mickey Mouse of things so much, but just those parks are just the operation they run there is crazy.
It's literally magical.
It is.
I like the behind the scenes stuff in music and movies.
Yeah.
And even like a place like Disney or Universal. I like the behind the scenes where you see when the people you see walking around, they're trained dancers, vocalists. Yeah. And
they can't break character and all that stuff. Yeah, it's I don't know. I feel bad because I use the word weirdo because I'm right there with them. I'm a kid. We're all kids to some degree, and I don't ever want to lose that for sure. As I get older, there's different things that appeal to me that didn't earlier in age, but I still am always going to just love just a good old time running around and
what's next rides. After marathons? You should try the Ironman. You ever heard the Ironman?
Someone brought that up to me last night. Actually, he's gonna give it a go. I think next year. I'm not a great swimmer, not a great biker, so I'm a 1 for 3 on the Ironman.
That'd be tough.
Yeah,
but it's crazy how people do that for the first time. They'll just I had a buddy who set out to run the Ironman.
Yeah.
And he went like all in. He went all in. He moved to Texas, and he was swimming, biking, and running every day.
Yeah.
To get ready for this, and then he ran the Ironman and finished it. And like
And nobody can take that away from you. That's
dude,
the coolest thing, man.
and he's in my phone as Iron Mike. Shout out Mike Fisher. He's in my phone as Iron Mike because how many of my friends have finished the?
Did he get the face tattoo?
No, he said he was gonna get it like on his leg or something. He did say he was gonna get the tattoo. That must be a thing.
I was talking about the Tyson tattoo.
No, but Ironman finishers tattoo the Iron Man logo on themselves. That's like a thing.
I didn't know that. That's
yeah.
cool.
So when you said that, I was like, he did say.
All right, maybe I will try it then.
You should.
Any excuse for a tattoo works for me.
Do you have any?
My whole body's covered pretty much.
Yeah, I like it.
I got drunk with a friend in Denver, Colorado after our tour ended there a couple months ago, and I got this little tequila symbol, or the agave plant.
The agave. You're a tequila guy. That's what I learned last time too.
Yep.
I had this idea for
Mention I
tequila.
have vices.
Yeah, well, that's a good hobby. I don't even know if I should talk about this idea. Someone's gonna steal it with more money than me and be like, "That's, oh fuck it, whatever." If I see this, it'd be cool. So I was talking. I forget who we were with at the holiday party. And we were having this. You know, he was talking about like Scentbird, and he has a friend who kind of adapted Scentbird's model to cigars. I was like, why don't we do that with tequila? A subscription service where you get a curated 4 premium tequilas in like a 2-ounce shooter or something delivered.
I do think they have something like
No,
that.
don't tell me that.
I don't want to break your heart here. Actually, a lender, Dave Holland, Holland Mortgage, he did a tequila like seminar. He had a special, like we'll call it like the sommelier of tequila. It was over Zoom during COVID. It was a great idea just to, come up with something creative. And, but he sent to all the agents these 4 samplers of this, mezcal, tequila, all the good stuff. And, the person was sitting there on the Zoom saying, this is for, this is made from this, it's made from, it was like a educational experience, but it was really cool and creative.
Well, he needs to make this a thing.
Oh no, that's the thing. The company that had him, I can't remember the name. I can picture the bottle, but I can't remember the name. But they do subscription based, where you get them. And I mean, there's I do wine clubs for some of my clients every once in a while for closing gifts.
So kind of like a wine club, but for
just
tequila.
Yeah.
And then you get the sample tequilas, and if you like it, you can go buy the bottle.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm not as creative as I thought. I was going to call it Tequila Me.
Do it.
The name in and of itself is pretty sweet.
Highly doubt it's patented. It's all yours.
Well, it's by the end.
Or mine, whoever gets there first.
Yeah. I just want in on. I'll design the logo. There you go.
Fair.
So you mentioned earlier, like attending, like another thing you like to do is attend shows for fun. Like, and what is that? What does attending these shows give you? Is that something you go to? Like, how can I better myself as a performer, or is it something you go and just bask it in? And
oh man, I'm just a fanboy. I really am. I've always, the artists that I love, or artists that I like, I love, and I love to see them live and sing along and just feel it. I'll go to shows by myself. I don't care. I'm just happy to be there. And it's really cool now, as I've been enveloped back into the music world the last 11 years, I've reconnected with so many groups and buddies from years past that, their bands have gone from here to here and just absolutely crushing it. And it's just really cool to see the different levels of success being reached by these guys, and just to talk with them about it, hear their stories, and also same thing, listen to their struggles too. I mean, touring is it's a tough lifestyle. It really is. It's very trying, and depending on the genre and the demand and how busy your schedule is, I mean, it's, it puts strains on relationships. It puts strains on people's personal health, mental health, and things like that. So it's really cool to stay in the music community and have people that you can feel like you can talk to or listen to and support one another, because unless you tour and travel in that life, it is a little bit hard to understand it.
It looks cool on paper, right? Like, oh, you're touring all these cities.
That's
and
right,
like,
yeah.
But then, like I said, I like the behind the scenes stuff. When you think about it, you're like, as soon as this show's over, they're not going out and partying it up. Maybe
it
you
depends.
can.
So, and that's the thing. People see 90 minutes of our 24-hour day, and they don't know what the other 22 and a half consist of a lot of times. And like I said, you really have to be strong-willed and self-disciplined to make sure you don't go down the wrong path. And that's the thing. After doing this as long as we have, I mean, yeah, we're a little more domesticated at this point to some degree. You know, it's nice to go back on the bus and watch a movie versus go out and, you know, rip shots all night and, you know, feel like shit the next day.
Well, then you have to travel again
And do it all over. Yeah.
again.
Yeah. And so that's the hardest part too with the discipline part is every city, you know, gratefully we have friends that come out. And a lot of these friends now, that's like their vacation night. You know, they get the babysitter and they make a night out of it. And it's really great to see them and catch up. But a lot of them, that's, like I said, that's their big night out for the season or for the month or what have you. But the very next night we're meeting up with somebody else that's in the same boat. I can't just go out and just go to 11 every single night. And that's the thing too. It impacts our show. It impacts, you know, people's singing voices or just ability to play.
You can't go to 11 every night? Dude, that place is...
I can't, man. I can't.
Sweet.
I love a good 11 though. Yeah.
But I'll get in trouble there. But yeah, I was watching Laney had come, and
Great guys.
I was going through the alleyway. I'd cut through the alleyway, and they were outside like working out.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
like I can make conversation with anybody. Like
Sure.
maybe I come off weird to some people, but we end up in a conversation. I'm literally talking with the Laney band outside,
Yeah.
and they're working out, and they're like, "Yeah, it's the only time we can get it. Like we have to do it right now because." And I'm like, I never thought of that. Like if working out is a passion of yours or whatever,
Yeah.
how do you work out on tour? You have to do it
So
at the arena, at the venue.
Dan and I are pretty big. We're both runners. So he and I would go out. Like the summer tour, it was all amphitheaters like Star Lake, and it's like Groundhog Day because a lot of these amphitheaters all look the same regardless of what city you're in. But the buses are always parked somewhere in the back, and I'll just run out and get lost. And he and I would we had some great chats, and just it helps the time pass for sure to have a buddy to run with. Because I'm used to just running by myself, but he's a great accountability partner because, like I said, he's the most self-disciplined. But we would do a run and then do some weights. We typically have a trainer out with us too. That really helps too because, I mean, he'll sometimes pull me out of my bunk in the morning and say, come on, we're doing this because otherwise I won't go. And that's just such a great feeling. And then we have the cold plunges out there, the IV treatments. I mean, it's really a really neat evolution from what touring used to be for us. It's very now health driven. And again, because it has to be, it's the stamina that you have to, especially in summer touring when those amphitheaters, they're like microwaves. It's like you're playing in the 100+ degree, just sweating your...
Yeah, it's all enclosed in the front, and then it opens up in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of does you a disservice.
Yeah, it's and that's what I mean. If you don't have your physical health right, it's going to be a tough go of it for sure because our show's so high energy and just, yeah.
What do you find it to be easier for you? The back-to-back shows where you can kind of get into like a repeat mode,
Yeah,
or
it's
when
nice.
there's a lull?
Nah, see, I like the rhythm that we get into, and it sucks because, you know, country touring is more of what we call weekend warrior type touring, where, you know, we're usually gone Thursday through Sunday and back for the week, which is really great for my business. It helps me balance that versus being gone. Like when I toured with rock bands back in the day, it was when you left, you left. You were gone until the tour was over. 5-6 shows a week, sometimes 7. And that's, but like we do like typically 2 to 4 shows a week when we're actively out touring, and that's more than fine. But like we're playing a private show in Orlando in 2 weeks, and I'm glad we're going down a day early just to kind of
Get there, unwind, prep.
yeah, just kind of get the dust off and, you know, vibe a little bit. It's amazing just but we've been the same group, same band for 11 years. It's amazing every time I'm nervous because we haven't played for months and months, and within like an hour we're like, oh, we're here. And it's a really cool feeling.
That's what you prep for.
Yep.
What does happiness mean to you? Joy, like not joy, but happiness. What does happiness mean to you? Because someone outside looking in, it's easy to see, oh, he's got the life, he's happy.
Yeah.
But obviously, being in the mix and everything you've talked about and the challenges that arise, like what does the definition of happiness mean to you that someone listening can hopefully apply to their life?
Oh, that's a brain buster there. But
No easy questions.
I'm here for it. I hope I'm not going too morbid here, but man, when I wake up and say I'm glad I woke up and I'm happy I'm here versus not here, that's enough for me, because And it's kind of like aging. There's so many people that are insecure about getting older and aging. I'm like, oh, if I'm having a birthday, that just means I'm still alive. And I really just want to stay alive and have quality of life. That's joy for me. And I mean, quality of life for me to the next step is ever changing for sure. But, having, I really feel like I've disconnected pretty hard from my family over the last 10 years, just via all the travel, via just enveloping myself purely into my business, my career. And, I'd like to maybe, because, our parents are getting older. My nephew, one nephew my godson turned 11 when I remember him being 1, which seems like yesterday. I can only imagine for parents. Yeah. I didn't realize you were a parent too. How old
12.
Are you? That's awesome.
She's 12. And I see, like, it's funny because when I envision her as being a toddler.
Yeah. Now you're getting attitude.
Well, yeah, and then I'll see a picture of her, like she's big on cheer. I'll see like her cheer pictures come, and I'm staring at it. I'm like, wow, like she is not that baby anymore.
Right.
It's tough. Like time. When people say time flies, if you don't appreciate where you're at when you're there, no matter what your circumstance is, dude, you're gonna regret it. You're gonna regret it. Like she gives me attitude now, right? And I'm like, it's easy to be like, yo, well, fuck, she gives me. But when she's off to get married and moving and starting her family, the first thing I'm gonna wish is like, man, I wish she was that 12-year-old girl again.
Of course, yeah, and that's just appreciating all that and taking advantage. Like I said, for me personally, it's more just about sitting with that, and there's times where of course I don't want to. I'd rather be doing certain things, but you know what, time is valuable with parents and stuff like that. I think that's something I do need to get better at. Just not sucking it up, because they're actually a great hang. They're good to be around. They go out 4 or 5 nights. They're out more than I am, honestly.
Good parents. There it is.
My dad likes his icy lights.
That's the key to life. Oh, he's a big Pittsburgh.
He's an icy light guy. Yep. Ironically, I don't drink beer. I drink pretty strictly just tequila.
Yeah,
but
I can't.
He's full on. Always been. I've never seen my father drink a shot or a mixed drink in his life. But
is that what it means to be a dad? I don't want to be a dad anymore. I need to stick with my tequila.
I don't know.
If I'm having a chill night, tequila Sprite.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm the type of, I'll go to a bar tequila, and they're like, what would you like with it? Mm-hmm. That's it. If you can make it a double, make it a double.
There you go.
I'll take tequila with tequila, please.
It's a great mix.
How do you stay focused? Being in the limelight, it's easy to look in social media and all this. Someone does it better, or someone will do it different. Like, how do you navigate all the negativity that we've talked about that comes on social media?
Well, we kind of touched on that. I mean, I let social media just be an avenue versus a way of life. Again, I know there's people that make a living off of it. There's people that improve their living based on it. But for every one of those, there's probably 100 people that are more miserable because of it. We're trained to compare ourselves. We're trained to, judge others. We're trained to not feel like enough because of the algorithm.
Yeah, it's a highlight reel. Social media is a highlight
exactly. Reel. And again, I'm not posting my bad days on there. I prefer to keep it positive, but also, it's just really, frankly, I jokingly say this. I think the peak of happiness for me would be a day where I can click the delete button on that, and just the people that have my phone number and I have theirs will stay in touch. And when we want to ask, or that's the other thing too, social media on all levels creates assumption more than anything. An assumption is like the death of all peace. When you just start assuming things, so it's like, I realize that I need to be better at reaching out to people, because most people anymore, and I'm guilty of it too. You just see somebody's post, you just assume that's what they're doing, and that's all that's going on in their life because that's what they shared. But that's just such a fragment, and that's not an excuse to not call somebody on their birthday or to not check in on somebody and see how they're doing. And it's it's funny too, because we all know, no names to be named here, but we all know couples that are very shiny and smiley on there, but behind closed doors, it doesn't seem like it's a happy situation.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. Like I said, it's just like the assumption created from it is that's very toxic, I think. And I just try to, like I said, I try not to doom scroll. I try not to, see anything more than just the surface level that is what it is. because I mean it's a freaking app.
Yeah. Well,
It's
at
an
the end
app.
of the day, yeah. And like you have to be intentional with what you post, right? Because like on your tour, you're not posting, and applying this to like music, you're not posting your technical malfunctions, right? You're not posting your.
I did post my
Oh, did you?
me falling flat on my back. I slipped on stage in Tampa over
Did you
the
keep
summer.
playing?
I sure did.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm proud of that.
I shared a mishap too. I was at a wedding. I was getting after it, and I tried to do the Michael Jackson toe thing.
Just forward.
Dude, just no back.
Oh, backwards.
I went back. But guess what I did?
Recovered.
I kept dancing on the ground. They're trying to pick. The bride comes up to me and she's like trying to pick me up, and I'm still dancing. I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
turn this off. But
Well, social media for me has become that. It's like I seek out comedy. I love comedy, and that's another. Aside from live music, I love live comedy shows too. But like some of these like skit crews and stuff like that, they're funny as hell. And I mean, I love the writing and stuff like that these people come up with, and it's just
dude, laughing is happiness, man. Like you can be having the worst day. If something can make you laugh, you forget about it, even if it's momentarily.
Well, I always get ticked off too because I spend so much money on my listing videos, and my crew does such a good job of presenting these listings, and I do believe it's a huge selling factor for a home in that, you know, people in today's world, especially the younger generation, they like to share their business. Like that's the kind of thing. If I'm buying a house, I'm not telling anybody. That's my business. That's just me personally. But I do embrace the fact that that's a huge milestone for anybody. I don't care what age you are. If you're buying a home, sure, share it, brag about it. And having that nice video is almost a gift to a client that they can then share with their friends and family. But also it's a good commercial for us as the agents and brokers. But what I was getting at was I get so ticked because, again, I spend all this money on these videos. And then every couple months, my video crew, they'll send me a blooper reel. And I post that, it gets freaking 100 times the amount of views because it's just stupid stuff and just me just cursing at myself because I can't say a damn line right.
Well, also I think a lot like social media has turned into like the behind the scenes thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you see the finished product looks good, but then you see everything it took for Dustin to make this video. And
Well, and that's the other thing too. I mean, it's a great, it's created success for like artists, musicians, and things like that. It's become a great platform, but also, and I've heard in interviews and heard a lot of celebrities state that, unfortunately it makes people feel like they are your friend, you're, right there with you. And these are people that have their own lives, their own families, and people feel like, I think it takes the boundary away from things that a lot of people deserve to have. I'm talking more like in the realm of celebrity, I guess you could say. It seems like they're the ones that are struggling more with it than not because, again, they want to share their stuff, but if you have super fans, again, I don't know what this is like, but I can just imagine, again, you're just trying to have dinner with your family and someone walks up to you, they think, well, I follow them on social media. We're friends.
That's tough. Yeah, that's
I can invade this person's privacy, their space, their home, their business, all that stuff. That's kind of the weird thing. On a business level can be a good thing, but on a personal level can be a little bit, I think it was either Chapel Roan or one of the pop artists. She basically just said, she's like, do not come to my home.
I mean, that's a good ask.
Yeah, you would think you wouldn't have to do that, but
like I'd say these
it's that
videos,
entitlement factor,
yeah.
And I don't sit well with that for some reason.
No, I agree. Like I know a lot of my stuff is on social media and stuff like you said. That's just it's very curated.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I also have a personal life. I'm very private.
Mm-hmm.
I like my space. If I stepped out of my house to get in my truck to come to the podcast, and there's a group of people outside, that would be tough to navigate. And we see these videos online of, oh, look at Kanye, or look at Justin Bieber being a douchebag. Mm-hmm. There's 50 people flashing lights in his face when he's trying to go take his wife to dinner.
Yep.
Or like they're at dinner and then you got 50 people, which
I see both sides of it.
I can see both sides.
Yeah.
I can appreciate like, man, what I'm doing, you appreciate, and you want ink on paper that I put on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's huge. I understand that. Also, the same token, it's like, I'm just trying to have dinner.
Right.
Like, can I just please eat?
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is that like, I mean, I'm grateful to be in the environment that I am with, the artists that I've got to meet, to play with, to tour with, and be around. I mean, the one thing you realize very quickly though, being in that environment is people are people are people are people. People are always just people. There's no such thing as a superhuman anything. And I don't care what, even Taylor Swift, the most notable person on planet Earth right now, she's still a person.
Yeah,
Everybody's a person.
She goes to sleep. She wakes up.
Yep.
She eats. She poops. I know you guys don't want to hear that, but
I don't know about that one.
yeah, girls don't poop. We know that, but no, that's true. Like I think a lot of it comes. I talked about this in the last episode. Is being intentional and being what's the word I'm looking for?
That's a great. Ed Ray, our broker owner, always talks about being intentional, and I've that really stuck with me a couple years ago when he brought that up about just everything in our business that we do, and you can take that to personal, you can take that to everything, but just instead of, because I struggle with this too, a lot of days I just feel like I'm just floating. I'm just looking at my calendar and I'm that appointment, but to do everything with intention, with just try to do it a little bit better than you did last time is so key to that self-improvement and that also just that self-joy, because you feel like you are doing more than floating. And that's really key. And it's key for me too, because like I said, we can all suffer from depression. We can all get down. We all have bad days. But when you notice that you're doing everything for a purpose, sometimes bigger than yourself, it's that's enough to have joy.
Yeah, I think joy comes from purpose and whatever you do. Like if I just went to the gym and moved heavy weights and went home, I'm not gonna get a lot from that. Yeah, you exercise, but like if you go in with a purpose, right? Like I want to get bigger, I want to be healthier, I want to be whatever your goal is, your purpose. If you can attach purpose to whatever you're doing, you're gonna find fulfillment.
Yeah,
you're gonna go through an array of emotions and whatever you're doing, but
yeah,
when there's intention and purpose, that's where I feel the joy and happiness comes from.
The gym is just such a key component to that whole theory, just because you physically feel the pain, and that is your muscles growing, that is your body improving, and it sucks, it hurts, and then you finish and you go, why do I feel like $1 million? And that's what I mean. If I'm hungover, if I'm exhausted, if I'm overworked, I still need to get myself to the gym to feel like myself again. And that's something I'm going to take with me till the day I die for sure.
That's a good point. Purpose, and then and courtesy. Give people courtesy.
Sure.
That's not I think especially we just got out of a big political, not to get into politics, political environment, right? No matter where you fall, people on the right hate the people on the left. People on the left hate the people on the right, and it's like everyone's people. Everyone has a set of beliefs. Everyone has opinions. But I guarantee you, if everyone sat down with each other and had an intentional conversation, you may not hate the person across the table.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You may not agree. Mm-hmm. You're not going to hate
What's funny
the
is
person.
in my band, if we're talking political standpoints, we're pretty 50-50 split. And it's created some interesting conversations. I err on the side of just staying out of it or trying to. There's times where I hear something, I go, I have to chime in on this one, but no, I'm mostly again, I'm to each their own again. I don't really care, but don't intentionally hurt people.
Yeah, I mean it's like you say
and
something.
don't wish ill will on people too, because that's the the whole thing with when Trump got shot earlier this year. I mean, to hear certain people go, oh, I wish they would have got him. Like, again, love him, hate him. Anything in between, he's still a human being, and
he's a father. He was a son at some point.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, it's just I don't care. There's people I don't care for in my life. I would never wish ill will on anybody.
Stay away.
And I do hope that circles back in some ways. And like I said, nobody's perfect, but I'm that to me, going back to just what is happiness, what is joy. It's just having peace with the fact that. Things aren't always going to go your way. Not everybody. I've always been a people pleaser, and that's been a borderline death sentence for me at times, where it's just you run yourself sick for people that aren't valuing it or appreciating it, and then you realize it's okay to say no. It's okay to and even if that person doesn't care for you because you don't, provide whatever it is that they want, so be it. Whatever. Not everybody's gonna love like you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that leads me to our closing thoughts. What would you tell people? What message once this podcast is over? People are driving, or they're at the gym, or they've listened to this episode. Mm-hmm. They've listened to Dustin. What message do you hope people take from this podcast that they can hopefully apply?
Oh man,
or what message? Did I say message or lesson? What message?
I just say always pay it forward. Always pay it forward. If you have the ability to pay it forward, that means you are in a great spot or in a position to do so. So take advantage of that, because there's no better feeling than, I don't know, making somebody's day better. And that can be done in a million different ways, you know? And also, too, do it silently. We don't need to share our every
But I have an
good
Instagram
deed.
following.
Yeah, every good deed or, you know, what have you. It feels even better when you know you're just doing it just to do it, because that means you're being genuine. And that's what I think our world needs to get back to, is just being more genuine and doing things for the right reasons versus wrong reasons.
Yeah, because you could do something good with not the best of intention.
That's right.
And it kind of takes away from the good you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What's next for you? What's in your career?
Sure.
In your business? And
So
in
this
music?
year, I just got licensed down in Tennessee this past year. I haven't done anything with it yet, aside from I'm signed on with Remax down there. But I'm going to try to spend a little more time down there this year, because if we're not touring, that opens up a lot of calendar for me to do so. And I, being the stir crazy human being that I am, I can't just, like I said, I've gotten so used to operating my business from anywhere that if I go down there for 2-3 days, it's not going to impact or negatively impact anything here. And if I need to come back here on a whim, I can do so. But really, for me, it's just getting back to the basics, like I said, with clientele, calling, texting, checking in, just letting them know that I am here, and reminding them that if they think real estate, make sure they think of me. That's the biggest thing too. I tell agents when I'm training them is, don't be a secret agent. People aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, as they should, you know, but yet the key is when they think of the next step of moving, then attach your name to that as well. But they're not going to do that unless you kind of keep yourself in front of them one way or another. So, great call on the intentional statement. Yeah, you got to stay intentional with things. And yeah, but yeah, if we're keeping it light on the tour schedule this year, I have put my name into the hat with some different groups that I know might need fill-ins later this year and stuff like that, because I do want to, if I can play some shows or tour a little bit, I would love to. And, you know, I had the pleasure to tour with an artist last year when we took some time off, and that was just a dream come true to get to go to Japan and Hawaii and play for a pop artist for a little bit. And she's a phenomenal human being and the most talented. I'm hoping that at some point this year I get to play with another group if I can, if my guys are going to take a breather.
Yeah, that's cool. Being able to own that, like a skill like that. That's not something like, I feel like a lot of that stuff and trades, like they're kind of.
Well, that's the thing. When you're a touring
behind.
musician, or we call it being like a hired gun. I mean, you know, if my guys take 6 months off, if I want to play music, I can put my name out there. And, you know, I had lunch with one of my buddies that plays bass for Luke Bryan. Great guy. He's actually a financial advisor in Nashville, and he kills it. And it's really cool because we can riff on that a ton, because we basically operate the same. You know,
Yeah, you have your business, and then you have your.
Yep, he's on the road a ton, but they're taking a lot of time off this year too. And I noticed a lot of country artists are taking some time off this year, and I think it's just because post-COVID, everybody just dove into touring again and just was nonstop. And a lot of these artists now, I think, are starting to feel it a little bit, and they want that breather. And also, I think it's a good business play too. I really do. I think, you know, when you force yourself down somebody's throat with just constant new songs, new albums, this and that, it lessens the appreciation of it. But when you go away for a little bit and then come back with a banger, you're right back where you were, if not even better. So
That's like, it's the law of supply and demand.
100%.
If you're always supplying, the demand is going to go down.
And that's what I mean. Yeah, we toured, pun intended, we toured relentlessly for basically 11 years. So I think this will be good for my guys, and, you know, help them get recentered, and, you know, and also to get in rooms where they can create more hits in a good way.
Well, I'm looking forward to what's next for you, for
Thanks,
them. I'm a big music guy, so
Likewise.
you know, and obviously you guys are on my playlist. I have a country playlist. Believe it or not, I listen to country.
Probably more than I do, honestly.
Well, I mean, if
I
you're
didn't say
in
that.
it,
You
it's
didn't hear
kinda-
that.
So okay, you just gave me a question. What's your favorite type of music to listen to? What's your go-to genre?
It's always just been variations of rock and metal, honestly. But that's why I love, like, so many of these new country artists, not new, but a lot of these country artists that are just really doing well right now. They're more rock driven, some even metal driven. I mean, they're learning how to scream. It's pretty cool to see. Yeah. But I mean, I've just always been into, you know, dark metal, and, you know, some of it's poppier than others. But I really love Falling in Reverse right now, Bring Me the Horizon, always been a big Korn fan, big Marilyn Manson fan.
Korn, that's hard.
Oh yeah, dude. I had a Korn shrine in my bedroom as a kid. I had all the records, the plush toys, I even had like the Tech skateboard with the Issues doll on. I mean, I had everything, and I still have some of it. I promise I'm not a hoarder. I just certain things I love.
Yeah, you keep it close.
And it's funny because a couple of those guys live in Nashville now, and I've gotten to see them. I see them at the airport actually a good bit because they're always touring and traveling. And I mean, it's just so wild to think. I mean, I idolize these guys, and again, they're just people. They're just good people. And but man, it's so cool to see these artists now that I've loved since I was a kid. I'm like, holy shit, they've been a band for 30 years. 35 years, 40 years. And that's when I go, oh, I am getting old. But, and it's cool to see them still at it and putting out good music. I mean, you know, Manson had had a pretty dark era the last couple of years. I think he, you know, was on that cancel train. But I've always just the art side of him and the music. He put out this new album this summer, and it's phenomenal. And he got sober. He's 4 years sober now. And it's just kind of cool to see again. These guys are still, I mean, he's like 50 some years old, but I mean,
still going.
Yeah. I mean, it's neat to see, you know, it's again, he's had some dark years, you know, in courts and all that stuff for various reasons, but you know what, got himself healthy. And, you know, again, I'm just only basing that on me following these people again on social media and things that people post. So I don't really know what's going on, but it's nice to see people win, especially when they're coming out of the trenches, because that's inspiring. Because I know at some point going forward here, I'm going to be in the trenches again for various reasons. And it could be on different levels, but we're always, when you're trying to get better at stuff, you're always going to fall. You're always going to get hurt. But seeing people win inspires me to keep getting out of the trenches whenever I fall into them. So that's what I got.
It's a good one. Where can people follow you if they are inspired by your story and your journey and kind of want to, you know, maybe they want to buy a house? You can go to Dustin. You can go to
DustinHook.com for that. At Dustin Hook, Insta, Facebook, all the fun stuff. I'm actually not on TikTok, and I'm proud of that. But I
think TikTok's become like I got fame on TikTok during COVID.
Oh, I believe it, man.
I had over 150,000 followers at one point. I was in Florida. And the 16-year-old girl comes up to me. That's the guy from TikTok. And
I love it, man.
Right there, I was like,
that suits you. Though. You got the personality, man.
No, dude, it's cool, but I was like,
I just say it from I'm like between Instagram and Facebook and even some LinkedIn stuff. Just I'll post like listings and stuff just to stay connected. But like I'm like that's enough for me. And me and my guys always talk about this. Just like that balance of like we're lucky in our 30s. We got a little bit of both. We grew up with a lot of organic stuff. You know, we weren't staring at screens constantly. We weren't, you know, forced into that.
No iPad kids.
You know, I learned how to write, which I don't know how to do anymore. But I love that we got that, but then also got some education on the technology side where we're not completely, you know, useless on that end. So I love that balance, but I make sure to control that where I'm not just glued to my phone or glued to all the apps. Because that's the thing. I mean, like I don't have the Snapchat. I don't have TikTok. And that's not a brag. It's for my own peace. Because if I had that and I just fell into that, I mean, you can get all that stuff anyways on YouTube or and Instagram anyways. I'm like, I just chose to pick one and stick with it. And that's what I do.
Well, and what I do kind of to be on that same boat, like I'm active on posting like podcast stuff. But I'm trying to stay away from my phone, trying to stay away from the apps. Like people are like, oh, you're always on Instagram. Why didn't you get my message? Mm-hmm. No, I post and I close.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want to go into the, like, dude, there were points,
just little self-control points you need to do. Like, I keep all the social apps deeper into my phone where I have to scroll to get to them. I have to work to get to them where it's not just right there in my face. You know, my main screen's my phone contacts, my email, and my Southwest app.
Well, brother, I appreciate you for jumping on the Relentless project.
Thank you, brother. It's a blast, man.
Of course. This is the one with Dustin Hook, and we're out. Later.